I still remember the icy grip of that night in the ancient mansion where my childhood was spent, a gilded prison of secrets and silent accusations. I am Alexander Moreau, a man molded by betrayal and the relentless hunger for retribution. Every step I take within these cold marble halls reverberates with memories of a time when I was treated not as kin, but as a mere outsider, a leech amidst the true heirs of the Moreau legacy. From the moment I was brought into this imposing family, the chill of disfavor was palpable. I recall the piercing disdain that radiated from Mrs. Moreau's unyielding gaze and the stinging rebuke in Mr. Moreau's harsh tone. Their biological children, swathed in arrogance, made it abundantly clear that I was nothing more than an unwanted guest in a home that belonged to blood, not fate. The weight of my isolation festered in the dim corridors of my memory, each whisper of denunciation leaving scars as deep as the night is dark. I could not forget the frozen expression on Mrs. Moreau's face, nor the cruel cadence in Mr. Moreau's words, a cruelty that left me with a burning need for revenge. As the years passed, my heart hardened into a weapon forged in the fires of grief and betrayal. I meticulously fashioned a plan to dismantle the very institution that had condemned me to a life of sorrow. Every calculated move was fueled by the belief that the Moreau family was behind the unimaginable tragedy that shattered my birth family, the very injustice I could neither forgive nor forget. I had resolved to bring the full weight of my retribution upon those whose actions in my eyes had been unforgivable. Returning to the mansion felt like stepping back into a crucible of my past suffering. The mansion loomed before me, its grandeur marred by an aura of desolation. I walked through the corridors, where portraits of distant ancestors seemed to watch me with accusatory eyes, their silent judgments a constant reminder of the sins that had haunted us all for generations. In every creaking step, I sensed that the legacy of my pain was inexorably intertwined with this place. One stormy evening, while poring over forgotten documents in the shadowed sanctuary of the family library, I made a discovery that rattled the very core of my being. Amidst brittle pages and faded ink, I uncovered a handwritten letter, confession from a long-departed relative whose trembling script hinted at a truth that defied my every conviction. The letter spoke of inherited sins carried over from a generation steeped in darkness, sins that perhaps had ensnared the Moreau family long before I ever stepped foot into this cursed abode. Even more shocking was the suggestion that I might not be the foreign interloper I had so long believed myself to be. The inked words suggested a bloodline connection so profound that it blurred the lines between enemy and kin. That night, as the rain pounded the leaded windows and the wind wailed like a chorus of lamenting souls, I sat alone under an ancient oak in the sprawling garden. Its gnarled branches, etched with the scars of time, stretched out like the fractured remnants of my own spirit. Beneath its boughs, whispers of the past drifted on the breeze, echoes of sorrow and regret that brushed lightly against the hardened recesses of my heart. I questioned everything. Was my desire for vengeance merely a misguided quest born of youthful ignorance, or was it a justified response to long-buried transgressions? It was in that fragile moment of introspection that I heard a hesitant knock on the study door. I opened it to reveal Madame Charlotte, the enduring servant whose loyalty had been a quiet beacon in my troubled life. Her eyes milky with unshed tears, yet filled with a solemn determination, implored me to pause and listen. "Master Alexander," she began, in a hushed timbre, "you must understand that the Moreau family is marred by burdens far weightier than mere malice. The truth behind our shared legacy is one of sorrow and unavoidable fate." Her words struck me a rare crack in my resolute armor, yet the echoes of past abuse clamored in my mind, urging me to cling to my resolve. How could I ever accept the possibility that those I despised might be entangled in a web of inherited tragedy they could scarcely control? Such unyielding questions haunted my every thought as I prepared to confront Mr. Moreau in the majestic yet stifling great hall. The opulence of the room, lavish tapestries, sparkling chandeliers, was at odds with the grim reality of our familial discord. I stepped forward into the silence, my voice steady yet laced with an undercurrent of bitter sarcasm as I addressed him, Mr. Moreau. I stand before you not merely to exact vengeance, but to unearth the truth hidden behind our family's gilded facade. I demand to know the origin of our misfortunes, the source of the anguish that has defined my existence. His response was measured and cool, his aristocratic tone betraying little emotion. Alexander, our family is bound by tradition and honor. We have safeguarded what is dear to us, though it may seem that our methods are misunderstood. We bear secrets not of malice, but of necessity. His reply left me suspended in a moment of paralyzing uncertainty. I realized then that the face of my enemy was not etched in simple cruelty, but shrouded in layers of regret and inherited despair. The revelation of that fragile letter, the murmurings of Madame Charlotte, and Mr. Moreau's calculated words, all converged to create an unsettling mosaic of truth. Perhaps the suffering I had endured was not solely born of deliberate cruelty, but of a legacy so burdened by secrets that none could escape its heavy thrall. Later that night, I sought out Damien, one of Mr. Moreau's biological children, whose introspective gaze had always hinted at unspoken knowledge. In the narrow, shadowed corridor adorned with ancestral portraits, I confronted him. "Damien," I said, my tone formal, yet laden with inner torment. "Tell me where our true lineage begins. How did these sins come to bind us? What of my own blood am I not also a part of this dreadful inheritance?" His eyes, dark and weary, met mine as he replied quietly, "Alexander, some truths do not emerge until you are forced to confront them. Our history is marred by deceit and a darkness that has for generations chained us to fate. Know that there are secrets deeper than the mere act of adoption, secrets that reveal that our souls are not as separate as we have long believed." His words echoed in the hollowness of the corridor, planting seeds of doubt and stirring a chasm of conflict within me. In that charged moment, standing amidst relics of a bygone era, I felt the fragile barriers of my hatred begin to crumble. The desire for revenge, once a blazing beacon guiding every step I took, was now tempered by the possibility that the true blame might lie not with the Moreau family alone, but with an accursed inheritance that had ensnared us all. My heart, so long a crucible of scorn, began to waver in the face of this emerging truth. Now, as I stand at the precipice of an uncertain future, I am forced to reckon with a reality more twisted than any vendetta I had wished to exact. The night's revelations have cast the first pale light on a truth that binds me to the family. I believed I loathed, a truth so profound that to fully embrace it might mean abandoning the path of vengeance altogether. Yet, as I close this chapter of my initial return, I know with unwavering certainty that my journey has only just begun. I have taken my first hesitant step down a dark, winding path, a path where every shadow conceals a secret, and every whispered revelation tugs at the fragile tapestry of my soul. The legacy of the Moreau name looms large, mysterious, and sorrowful. And I, Alexander Moreau, must now confront not only the demons of a family's past, but also the unyielding specter of my own identity. The truth lurks in these haunted halls, and I am determined to unmask it, even if the cost is the forgiveness of the unforgivable and the reconciliation with a destiny I never chose. I never imagined that the mansion's endless corridors would eventually lead me to a hidden chamber where my destiny would be rewritten. That night, as the tempest raged outside, I crept through long-forgotten passageways, each step resonating with the echoes of an ancestral past that I had long tried to bury. The darkness seemed almost tangible, alive with secrets waiting to be revealed. With a trembling hand, I pushed against a creaking bookshelf, until it gave way, unveiling a narrow stairway leading down into obscurity. The air grew thick with the musk of aged leather and wax, and I knew that what I was about to discover could unravel everything I had believed. Descending into the secret chamber, my heart pounded like a war drum. The room was bathed in a spectral light, filtered through a high, narrow window. Dust motes danced in the beam of moonlight as I surveyed the relics of a bygone era. Brittle ledgers, faded portraits, and a locked chest covered with intricate engravings. Drawn irresistibly to the chest, I retrieved an ornate key from a nearby shelf, a key that seemed to call my name. With careful deliberation, I unlocked the chest. Inside lay a collection of letters, documents, and a small, time-worn locket. I cradled the locket in my hand, its design intricate with the same family crest I had seen on the Moreau signet ring. The resemblance unsettled me. It was as if the locket bore witness to a secret that bridged the gap between hatred and kinship. The first letter I read, penned in delicate, precise script, belonged to a woman whose name I recognized from the faded diary I had discovered months before. As I absorbed each word, a horrid truth unfurled before me. My birth was far more entwined with the Moreau family than I could ever have fathomed. The letter spoke of forbidden love, of a union condemned by both pride and age-old prejudices, and of a decision meant to protect a fragile child from the inevitable retribution that would follow such transgression. The words echoed with an ineffable sorrow, a sorrow that resonated with the silent agony of my own heart. In that moment, my bone-deep desire for revenge quivered as doubts crept stealthily into my soul. Before I could ponder further, the sound of approaching footsteps shattered the oppressive silence. I pressed myself against the cold stone wall, the locket clutched tightly in my hand as two figures emerged at the threshold of the chamber. It was Mr. Moreau and one of his eldest children. Their faces, illuminated by the flickering light of an oil lamp, were etched with a blend of determination and resignation. I stepped forward, my voice steady, yet laden with a tumult of conflicting emotions. Mr. Moreau, I declared, for years, I have sought retribution, convinced that your family condemned me to a life of torment. But now I stand before evidence that suggests our fates are interwoven in ways I had never imagined. Mr. Moreau's eyes, once impassive and calculating, now shimmered with an emotion I could scarcely decipher. Regret, perhaps, or a weary acceptance of inevitable truth. Alexander. He intoned slowly, his aristocratic tone betraying a vulnerability that had long been concealed beneath facades of cold authority. There are sins committed long before you were born, burdens inherited across generations. Our actions were not solely born of malice, but were forced upon us by destiny and the bitter curse that has haunted our lineage. At that, his words reverberated through the chamber, mingling with the weight of history and despair. My earlier thirst for revenge wavered, replaced by a dawning realization that our shared pain might be the result of forces beyond any one family's control. Yet the revelation did not extinguish the flames of my burning fury. Rather, it complicated them, sowing seeds of confusion and sorrow. Still clutching the locket, I held it before me as a silent affirmation of my emerging truth. This locket, I said, the tremor in my tone belying my controlled exterior, bears the crest that once belonged to my mother. And these letters, these remnants of a past obscured by lies, could it be that the fate I despise is also the legacy that binds me to you? My voice wavered, the question more than a challenge. It was an appeal for understanding, for redemption. A heavy silence fell over us. The Moreau child, biting his lip in anguish, murmured, "Master Alexander, the past is a tapestry of grief and disappointment. You are more than the sum of the wrongs done to you. You are intrinsically linked to our sphinx-like family curse. Your mother, she was one of us, and in concealing your true lineage, we hoped to spare you the weaponized truth of our sins." His words sank into my heart like cold rain, further complicating the narrative of a life marked solely by betrayal. Mr. Moreau stepped forward, his face lined with the irrevocable weight of regret. For years I believed that by keeping you at arm's length, I could protect you from the corruption that has eclipsed our family. I was wrong. The forbidden love your mother bore was not a sin, but a tender defiance against a cruel world. We adopted you not to condemn you, but to shield you from the storm we ourselves could not weather. His words carried both authority and a sorrow that resonated in the hollow spaces of my despair. In that moment, the mansion itself seemed to sigh under the gravity of truth. Every secret that I had once believed was solely the product of deliberate cruelty now appeared as intricate and tragic as a symphony of fate, where every note was both a lament and a lesson. My heart, long swathed in icy resolve, now throbbed with a conflicted rhythm, a tumultuous blend of vindication, sorrow, and the desperate yearning for absolution. As thunder rolled overhead and the storm outside intensified, I found myself at the crossroads of a destiny unwritten. The revelation of my blood connection to the Moreau family did not nullify my suffering, yet it cast a new light upon the meaning of the agony that had defined my existence. In that tumultuous moment, I was faced with a moral crucible. Should I continue my relentless pursuit of revenge, damning innocent souls in the process, or embrace the possibility of forgiveness, a gentle release from an ancestral grudge that had poisoned us all? I withdrew the locket from my grasp and gazed into its tarnished surface, where the etched crest seemed to pulse with the rhythm of my own heartbeat. Forgiveness, or endless vengeance, I whispered to the darkness, my voice barely audible above the clamor of the storm. The chambers of my soul reverberated with the cyclical torment of inherited sin, a cycle that had claimed too many lives and left an indelible mark on the very core of our existence. It was then that Madame Charlotte, the loyal guardian of our family's secrets, emerged from the shadows. Her face, lined with care and compassion, was a contrast to the austere expressions of the Moreau men. "Master Alexander," she began quietly, her tone imbued with centuries of wisdom, tempered by sorrow. To break the curse that has stifled our souls, one must first acknowledge that our family's transgressions are not confined to a single act of treachery. We are all prisoners of a past that we did not choose yet. We must now choose whether to perpetuate the cycle or to rise above it. Her words, spoken with gentle authority and an intimacy born from years of silent suffering, resonated deeply within me. In that crucible of revelation, I felt all the masks of hate and vengeance begin to crack. The storm outside, with its fury and relentless downpour, seemed to mirror the tempest within my heart, one that was now pivoting towards the possibility of redemption. Standing amid the relics of a family steeped in sorrow, I made a silent vow. The path of revenge had brought me to the brink of destruction, but now, illuminated by the harsh light of truth, I sensed the faint stirrings of forgiveness. Whether that forgiveness would free me from the chains of the past or condemn me to bear its weight forever was a decision still looming on the horizon. In that charged silence, I acknowledged the undeniable truth. I was not merely a pawn in an endless game of vendetta. I was a living testament to a struggle that transcended personal pain, a struggle etched into the very fabric of my blood. The dark secrets of the Moreau family, the whispered confessions of ancient errors, were all threads woven into the tapestry of my existence. And now, at the edge of a moral precipice, I was forced to choose whether to let the weight of my inherited sins crush me or to take up the arduous yet liberating mantle of forgiveness. The revelation of my blood relation to this family did not absolve them of the darker deeds of the past. Rather, it revealed that our lives were bound inextricably by a shared destiny. As I embarked on the next chapter of this tumultuous journey, I knew that the battle between vengeance and compassion was far from over. It had only just begun. In the quiet aftermath of the storm, as the first light of dawn crept through the ancient stone walls, I realized that every soul in this mansion was a prisoner of secrets. And perhaps in the act of revealing those secrets, we might finally find the key to breaking the curse that had defined us for generations. Now, with the locket in my possession and the bitter taste of truth still fresh upon my lips, I prepare to face the ultimate test. The choice lies before me to continue down the path of retribution with a heart hardened by grief, or to dare to forgive to forge a new legacy from the smoldering ashes of our shared past. My hands tremble as I hold the remnant of my mother's love, knowing that the road to redemption is as treacherous as the path to revenge. This is the moment when history collides with destiny, and I, Alexander Moreau, must decide which legacy I shall inherit. The first rays of dawn crept over the horizon, casting pale light onto the mansion's weathered stone walls. I found myself alone in the vast silent foyer, a place now laden with revelations and the burden of inescapable legacy. The storm of the previous night had subsided, and in its wake a profound stillness filled the air. My mind, which had been a maelstrom of conflicting emotions, was now eerily quiet as I prepared to confront the final act of this long and arduous journey. I walked slowly toward the grand staircase, each step echoing with the weight of my past present and the uncertain future. In the lingering chill of early morning, I recalled the faces of my tormentors, the Moreau family members whose eyes once brimmed with disdain, regret, and now an undeniable plea for redemption. The locket, still warm in my palm, served as both a reminder of my lost mother's tender love and the bitter truth of my intertwined destiny with this cursed lineage. The tension in my chest was a constant pulsing reminder of the moral crucible in which I had stood. I questioned everything. Was my relentless quest for revenge simply the result of a lifetime of isolation? Could I ever sever the chains of injustice, or was I condemned to carry the sins of generations? As I climbed the stairs, I was determined to finally meet them all, to hear their truths, and to confront the final decision that would define the rest of my life. At the top of the stairs, I found the drawing room awash in the subtle light of awakening. There, gathered around a long polished table, stood Mr. Moreau, Mrs. Moreau, and the other children, each face a study in complex emotion. The atmosphere was heavy, thick with years of suppressed sorrow and unresolved guilt. For a moment, time seemed to suspend as our gazes locked. In that silence, we were bound by more than blood or betrayal, we were united by destiny. Mr. Moreau was the first to break the silence. His voice, measured and laden with remorse, cut through the quiet. "Alexander." He began, his tone somber and vulnerable. "Tonight, we must confront the legacy of our sins, both yours and mine. We have shielded you from the darkness of our past, but in doing so, we left you adrift in a sea of bitterness." I met his gaze, the decades of hatred and anger warring with newfound doubts and sorrow. For years I have believed that I was a victim, that the Moreau name was a curse upon my existence. I replied, my voice low and steady. But now I see that the past is not so easily divided into good and evil. There are layers upon layers of regret, sacrifice, and secrets that we all have borne. Mrs. Moreau's eyes glistened with unshed tears as she stepped forward. "We adopted you in desperation, Alexander. We sought to mend a broken legacy, but in our attempts, we made mistakes that cost us dearly. Your birth was the result of a forbidden love, a love that transcended the rigid boundaries imposed upon us by society. We wanted to protect you from that cruelty, yet in doing so, we sealed your fate with our own suffering." Her words, filled with both pain and pleading hope for understanding, struck deep at the core of my hardened defenses. The silence that followed was punctuated by the soft sobbing of one of the younger Moreau children, whose resentment and anguish had grown into a bitter maturity over the years. He spoke in a whisper, barely audible. "I have lived with the knowledge that our family's sins are not mine alone, nor yours. We all share the same heavy burden. Alexander, perhaps only by embracing all of this can we ever truly find redemption." His voice trembled with the burden of centuries-old resentments and the desperate desire to break free of a legacy marred by sorrow. Standing among them, I felt the stirring of something new within me, a recognition that the heavy chain of inherited sin might be broken if we dared to confront it together. For so long, I believed that retribution would be my solace, that by dismantling the family I blamed entirely for my misfortunes, I could absolve my pain. But the revelations of the past, the locket in my hand, and the impassioned confessions of my adoptive kin had unearthed a more profound truth. Our fates had been entwined long before I was ever brought into this home, and the true crime lay not in my adoption, but in the relentless cycle of bitterness and misunderstanding that had haunted us all. In that moment, I realized that my heart was losing its capacity for hatred, slowly succumbing to a newfound empathy. "Tell me," I demanded softly, though there was strength in my tone, "is there no possibility of forgiveness? Can I let go of this vendetta that has consumed me for so long? Can we instead choose to heal, to acknowledge our shared mistakes, and to build something new from the broken pieces of our lives?" Mr. Moreau's eyes met mine once more, and behind their guarded sorrow I saw a flicker of hope. Forgiveness is not a simple act, Alexander. It is a struggle of the soul, a battle between memory and hope. We have all been victims, whether of circumstance or of our own misguided choices. But if you grant us that chance, perhaps together, we can find redemption. His voice carried the weight of years spent in regret, yet it resonated with an earnest desire for change. For a long, heavy moment, I stood suspended on the precipice of destiny. The desire for revenge still simmered within me, a familiar flame fueled by years of bitterness. Yet, the undeniable truth spoken by each member of the Moreau family called out to another part of my soul, one that was long overdue for healing. I recalled the aching loneliness of my childhood, every cold dismissal that had steeled my resolve for vengeance. But now, with the shared confessions and the raw honesty of the moment, I felt the edges of that hardened resolve begin to soften. I took a deep, shuddering breath and slowly reached into my pocket for the locket. Its cool metal pressed against my palm, grounding me in the present and reminding me of the delicate love and sacrifice it symbolized. I have spent so long thirsting for revenge, I murmured, my voice trembling with a haunting blend of sorrow and relief, that I nearly forgot how it feels to be whole. But I see now that our pain has been the currency for our mistakes, a cost that none of us should have borne alone. A fragile silence followed, as if the mansion itself were holding its breath. Then, in a measured tone filled with the sincerity of someone willing to forsake old wounds, I continued, "I choose not to let the cycle of vengeance define us any longer. Instead, I will let forgiveness, however fraught with difficulty, be the spark that guides us out of this darkness. I will walk away from the path of unending retribution, though I cannot forget our past. I will honor it by taking responsibility for my own future, a future that acknowledges our shared burdens and strives to heal them." Tears glistened in the eyes of those gathered not solely from sorrow, but from the dawning realization that this moment was a turning point, a chance to break free from the shackles of an ancient curse. Mr. Moreau stepped forward, placing a trembling hand on my shoulder. "Your choice, Alexander, is a rare gift, a chance for us all to finally mend what has been torn apart by years of silence and suffering. It is not an easy road, but perhaps it is one we must travel together." I nodded slowly, feeling an unexpected lightness in my heart. Though the wounds of the past would never entirely vanish, they might at long last become the foundation upon which we rebuilt our family. This battle between forgiveness and revenge had raged within me for so long that the decision to let go felt both liberating and terrifying, a final severing of the ties that had bound my soul in perpetual conflict. As I turned away from the table and stepped outside into the fragile embrace of daylight, I felt as though I was finally gazing upon the world for the first time. The cold mist of early morning yielded to the warmth of a new day, and the mansion's oppressive gloom seemed to lift, even if only slightly, in the face of our mutual confession. I knew that the road ahead would be long and fraught with challenges, that scars would persist long after the wounds had healed. But I also knew that every step I took from that day forward was a testament to the power of redemption, a testament to the possibility of emerging whole, even from the depths of an unyielding past. I left the estate with a resolve that was as delicate as it was determined. I would carry the memories and the lessons of this painful chapter as I embarked on a journey not defined by vengeance, but by the slow, courageous march toward forgiveness and self-healing. I had finally embraced the bittersweet truth that love, remorse, and the willingness to forgive are the only antidotes to a legacy marred by perpetual resentment. In the distance, the mansion receded into the soft haze of an unforgettable yesterday, a relic of sorrow and redemption. And as I walked away, I carried with me the hope that somewhere hidden in the labyrinth of our intertwined lives lay the power to transform anguish into a future where forgiveness transcended even the deepest scars. For in choosing to forgive, I not only freed myself, but also granted my family the chance to truly begin again. This was my final choice. I had no illusions about the time or the pain it would take to fully heal, but I knew deep within that each step forward was a step away from the prison of hate. I was Alexander Moreau, a man not defined by revenge, but by the courage to stand on the precipice of a new beginning, where our shared legacy could finally be transformed into hope.